I'm videotaping
Okay,
you. So talk about your experience on the island with the, what was the radio
yeah,
underground?
so we landed in the Solomon Islands, a small island near Guadalcanal. And soon after landing, then we went in first, and then later the Seabees went in that do construction. So when they got in, then they had a bulldozer in where they dug out a cave for us. Oh, it was probably about 20 foot by 20 foot underground with coconut logs crisscrossed above it, and then camouflage canvas on top of that to make it waterproof, and then palm trees laid on that to make it even more camouflaged because the Japanese were bombing us.
Yeah.
And so, and we had the transformer and generator camouflaged outside of the cave. So we, in the cave, we had 2 decoding officers and 4 radio operators. We had earphones, typewriters in front of us, and we would receive messages concerning ship movement and troop movement, invasion. And everything was in Morse code, but it was in 4 digits in space, 4 digits in space. And we'd catch these with earphones and typewriters, and sometimes you'd get some old Navy guy that'd been in for years that was so expert, and he was using a bug, and I'm sure Don would know what a bug is. And
Oh, you mean Dan?
Dan, okay, Dan. And, pardon me, Dad. And the bugs would send a message so quick you had to be really skilled to capture that and get it down onto a typewriter. And would come in 4 digits, space 4 digits, and then sometimes we'd have to interrupt the communication. We were in communication with other ships and other islands.
Yeah.
And
So what was the name of this island again?
well, this was called Treasure Island, which was a small little island that you could walk from one end of it to the other in a day's time. But it was in a cluster of islands right near Bougainville, south of Bougainville.
Oh.
And a couple of natives were living on it, but it was really owned by some plantation company for the bananas.
Dole.
Doe. Doe pineapple company, right?
Okay.
And so then when the Seabees came in, then we were dug in underground, and so we would stand watch 4 hours on, 4 hours off, and with earphones, and receive the messages and give them to officers behind the curtain to decipher it, and then we'd send messages back. And then after your duty, then we would sneak out through the palm trees and coconut trees. And a danger on the island almost next to the bombing was falling coconuts.
Oh yeah, I'm sure those things are heavy.
You'd be walking and started boom, a coconut would hit the ground from high up and
Ooh, that would hurt.
knock you out. So then that went on for about 4 or 5 months. And so the Japanese picked up on our signal, but they didn't they didn't send in a fleet of planes. They had one plane that would come in. It was written up in history books. It was called, and they gave him the name of Piscal's Charlie, because on a clear moonlight night, you'd hear this one plane come in, and it was nicknamed Piscal Charlie because we'd get out of the tent and take a piss.
Jeez.
And at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he'd drop one bomb and then leave, you know. But later there were more bombs dropped, but we laughed about it. And so that went on for several months.
Yeah.
And then eventually, on the other thing on the small island, it had an airstrip, B-25 bombers, and they were primarily hitting Rabaul to knock it out. And so off duty, and the airstrip was real close by, so off duty I'd go up and watch these B-25s come in. Some of them come in, crashed, some of them come in, shot up, and I was watching them unload guys off of stretchers and this kind of thing.
Mm.
That went on for, 2 or 3 months. And then occasionally fighter planes would come in, but it was a rather small airstrip. So eventually things phased out, and New Zealand's were there, Seabees, construction, and Navy. But later, Seabees left, Air Force left, and just a few of us were left, so we were attached to the Australian or New Zealand 8th Brigade. And so we were living with the New Zealanders. And as things moved up north, they kept shipping out guys we had about 25 radio operators. And when they shut down the radio
I'm gonna
station,
have
then
to
they,
stop this soon, so, yeah. Cause I'm running out.
okay.
Keep going. Just get to the end.
Okay. So when they were ready to ship, when things cooled down, they started shipping guys onto the battlefront. Well, there were only 3 of us out of 25 guys that were married. And so they'd say, okay, now we need 4 guys for this outfit, 4 for this, and ship them closer to the front, to the battle area. And leave Rice behind because he's married.
Yeah.
Leave him behind, he's married, which shouldn't make any sense, but
Aw.
that's the way it happened. And they kept shipping guys out. And so finally, there were just 3 of us. 3 of us left. Delzato was injured he had shrapnel on his back, but they didn't bother to take it out. And they left him behind, and they left another guy behind because he looked like he was dying of TB. And they left Rice behind because he was married.
Wow.
Because he was married.
Aw,
And
that's a
so
neat
everything
story.
disappeared. And so eventually, as things quieted down and the war was getting towards the end, I had orders to take any available transportation and return back to Treasure Island in San Francisco. But we couldn't get a plane. The airstrips was shot up. We couldn't get a plane in there. Finally, we stood watch to watch for any plane that would come in. Occasionally a plane would come in with a nurse on it or something. And so finally a C-47 came in late in the afternoon, and the 3 of us are standing around. This pilot says, look, we've been here 18 months. We have orders to get home, but we don't have transportation. He said, look at this clipboard I have. I got to pick up these transformers. I got to pick up all the leftover gear from the Air Force. He says, no way I can get you on a plane. He says, look, we've been here all this time. We've been here for 16 months. And we kept pleading with, well, I tell you, come up here the first thing in the morning and we'll check it out. So, okay, we were there at daylight the next morning. And he said, now don't bring anything with you. Don't bring a sea bag or anything, just what you have on. And so then he started measuring all this equipment he had to pick up, calculating the poundage and that he's going to pick up. And he said, well, okay, come up here tomorrow morning at daylight. Don't bring any gear with you. Leave your sea bag behind, just what you have on.
Okay. Aw.
It was short, but